Are overlapping med changes hiding the real signal? Overlapping med changes can hide the real signal. Your blood pressure may improve while your glucose is still mixed, or one treatment block may inherit the context created by an earlier one and make the next change look stronger or weaker than it really is. The screen examples in this video use the 1-year mock data file included with the app by Werner Tools and Chris Werner, so what you see here is a workflow demonstration, not a claim about your own medical record. The app's role is to pull blood pressure, glucose, weight, lab results, and dated medication events into one review so overlapping changes become visible instead of blurred together. Enter repeated readings, not just a headline number. The first step is data density. The blood pressure screen records repeated systolic and diastolic readings over time, and the glucose screen allows 1 or 2 same-day glucose values for a date. That matters because hidden patterns are usually not visible in a single best or worst number. They show up in repeated entries, changing day-to-day ranges, and whether glucose is clustering tightly or bouncing. If the record is too sparse, the app can only summarize sparse data. If the record is consistent, the trend logic has something real to work with. Attach the timeline before you trust the story. The next step is context. Medication and event tracking keeps treatment starts, stops, supplements, exercise changes, and diet shifts attached to dates. Then the begin and end selectors let you build comparison windows around those milestones instead of around vague memories like last fall or sometime after the prescription. That is how the app handles one of the most common hidden pattern problems. The numbers may change, but without dated anchors you cannot tell what happened before the change, what happened after it, or whether 2 treatments were overlapping. Compare blocks so a full year average stops fooling you. Once the dates are set, the block comparison view does the real work. In the sample file, the walking block looks mostly flat, while later treatment blocks show stronger downward movement in blood pressure and glucose. That is a good example of a hidden pattern. A full window average could blur all of those phases together and make the year look merely mediocre. The app separates the windows so you can compare averages, slope, latest values, and lab matches block by block instead of pretending the whole year was one condition. Plots reveal drift and volatility that averages hide. The plot view catches a different class of hidden pattern, shape. A stable average can still hide a rising glucose line, a widening blood pressure spread, or a short noisy burst that deserves context. The all plots view shows how blood pressure, glucose, weight, and estimate lines move together, while the individual blood pressure and glucose plots let you inspect the direction more closely. That matters because the question is not only what the average was. It is whether the line was stable, drifting, clustering, or breaking trend near an event. Lab markers expose when glucose confidence is deserved. The app also handles hidden patterns by checking home readings against lab context. Estimated A1C can sit beside recorded lab A1C, and average glucose can sit beside the lab-derived average glucose estimate from that A1C. When those lines stay close, your reading-based story looks more credible. When the variation widens into a fair, meaningful gap, or poor agreement range, the app makes that visible. That protects you from overtrusting a nice-looking home trend that may not be lining up with dated lab evidence. Monitor accuracy can change the whole interpretation. Another hidden pattern problem is device bias. If the glucose monitor itself is drifting away from same-day lab results, then the trend you think is physiological may be partly device error. The report button opens a summary that checks same-day lab dates, and in the sample file the direct glucose line reads plus 0.4%, very close overall. The detailed rows then show each lab date, matched reading, and variation label. That means the app is not just plotting a glucose line. It is helping you judge whether the glucose line is trustworthy enough to interpret in the first place. Read the report like an investigator, not a spectator. The report is where the hidden pattern review becomes disciplined. Start with the summary line, then audit the individual lab rows. In the sample file, some rows are very close while others widen into a meaningful gap. That is important because a clean overall average can hide uneven quality across the timeline. One month may line up well with lab fasting glucose while another does not. By reading the report line by line, you can see whether the pattern is consistently strong, only strong in one block, or weakened by dates where the lab context says be cautious. What this app can prove, and what it cannot. The right conclusion is disciplined, not dramatic. This workflow can show direction, timing, agreement, and hidden structure in your own recorded data. It cannot prove causation, replace medical judgment, or certify a device with formal FDA authority. Short windows can mislead, overlapping treatments can blur the signal, and sparse lab data can leave uncertainty on the table. So the best use case is private review at home and better preparation before appointments. The app helps you stop missing patterns. It does not give you permission to overclaim them. About the app, privacy, and where to get it. Therapy Impact and Glucose Analyzer is by Werner Tools and Chris Werner. It is a Windows desktop application for personal tracking of blood pressure, glucose, weight, medications, and dated lab results. Privacy is straightforward because the workflow is built around local files on your computer, and the app does not upload your readings, reports, exports, or backups to cloud services. The full app can be obtained on Etsy for $9.95. Use the link shown on screen, etsy.com/listing/451-336-5729, or scan the QR code shown here.